pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call to order the regular town council meeting for Town of Hudson on June 16th at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stadler?
Here.
Councilmember Nolf?
Here.
Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Maestas?
Here.
Councilmember Hammack?
Here.
Councilmember Warren?
Here.
Mayor Hargis?
Here. Are there any additions to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Citizens' comments. Point in our meeting for anybody who wishes to address the council on anything that is not already on the program for public hearing may do so at this time. Nobody wishing to speak up at this time? All right. Consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I do. I did not have a staff report last council meeting. It's the same staff report that's on this one from last council meeting. That was from May, so that just needs to be taken off and corrected. Because it said I talked about the T-Mobile grant from the school.
That was the last one.
So that needs to be fixed.
Anybody else? I have a question on the liquor license for Ben's. It has to be, the issues have to be corrected by 6/25.
So what happened was Detective Kimmett found some deficiencies when he did their physical inspection. They were corrected a week afterwards. He notates that on their report. So there's extra notes when we went back and visited with them. So everything has been changed.
So either that didn't make it in this or I missed it.
I don't see it either. I see the issues, but no.
Yeah, I saw the issues.
Yeah.
So that's where he crosses it out and says, okay. And then he had his initials on the end.
This comes over. I don't see them.
Okay. I was with him when he did his follow-up.
I do have a question too.
Okay.
What were the problems? Because it is very hard to read his writing.
Would you like to change the process to where we had them typed?
Well,
That might be a good idea for some of them, but the sales tax license wasn't visible and the alcohol purchase from a permitted source wasn't, I guess, wasn't there.
So something High Country Beverage is all I can see.
So, oh, and the minor warning sign issued by the state of Colorado not being posted, I believe.
When we went back, it was posted where it was supposed to be.
So it is all fixed then.
Yes. And I verified that before I submitted it to the consent agenda.
Okay. With the correction of the staff reports, can we get a signed or something that all of these have been corrected and a date for the permanent record?
Yes.
Okay. So, anybody else have any other questions? Then with that in mind, I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda or the consent agenda with the corrections noted.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with corrections noted.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stadler?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammack?
Yes.
Councilmember Warren?
Yes.
Councilmember Maestas?
Yes.
Councilmember Nolf?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Mayor Hargis.
Yes. 2A, Resolution 2119, a resolution approving a master service agreement and a lease and operations agreement with Allo Hudson LLC for design. Oh, yeah, design, deployment, lease, and operation of the Hudson Fiber Network.
Thank you. Joining us this evening is Brad Moline, the CEO of Allo, and Ken Fellman, who is legal counsel retained by the town for this particular issue. They're here to answer any questions you might have. This is a lot of documentation. We just wrapped up our negotiations Monday. That's why you got them when you did. I'm going to go through a lot of things here. Any questions? I would suggest let's try to get through it. I'll try to get through my presentation, and then we'll try to get any questions. And we have at least Ken here for as long as you need to answer any of the questions. So within these documents, you're going to see the HFN. That is the Hudson Fiber Network. So anytime you see that, that's what that references. As we've talked about, Hudson, the state of Colorado, is going to pay for the design and construction. Allo will design the backbone and manage its construction. Hudson will own the backbone. Allo will lease the backbone and maintain it. These are all the things that we've talked about for a long time that are still in this agreement. So you have 6 documents. You have 2 main documents and 4 work orders, and that comprises this agreement, which will all be approved under the one resolution you're considering. So you have a master services agreement, lease and network operations agreement. Work order number 1 is design oversight and associated work. Work order number 2 is construction management services and associated work. Work order number 3 is splice work, and work order number 4 is central office and associated work. So I'm going to go through these, hit some of the high points. A lot of this is legalese gobbledygook, but there's some very important parts in here. Sorry. So first document, let's look at the master services agreement. This agreement is a base agreement that covers the provisions of certain services related to the design, construction, operation, maintenance of the Hudson Fiber Network, and has the associated work orders. That's where the work orders are going to go. This agreement covers basic contractual obligations of both parties, such as the term of the agreement, audit, the ability for the town to audit, intellectual property, insurance requirements, so on and so forth. Under that, you have work order number 1. Work order number 1 is the design, oversight, and associated work. This work order governs the design of the fiber network, including design oversight after plan delivery and recommendations for materials, circuits, construction plans, the details. So it has the design, it'll have permitting documents and drawings, materials, research and procurement assistant, bill of materials for the project, production of the construction prints, production of splicing documents to review the circuit quotes. So this is the one that we get the design from them, okay? Allo will perform the service as to be completed before December 31 of this year. And they will be paid a flat rate of $100,500 upon delivery of the design. That is what you're going to get charged pretty much by any engineer who is going to design it. But they've kind of come up with a rough design, which they did on the house for us. So they're far down the road in understanding the design and the constraints of the town. So that's document number 1. Document number 2 is work order number 2, and that's the construction management services and the associated work. This work order provides construction management services, and that'll include assisting in review of prospective contractor bids and proposals, assisting the town in awarding construction contracts, conduct pre-construction walk with selected contractor and recommend design adjustments as required, conduct worksite inspections, report project status to the town weekly, communicate work delays, inspect contractor work, ensure contractor resolves issues with community stakeholders. This is the actual building of the fiber backbone. As we've mentioned before, and as we've always talked about, the town will enter into contracts itself with the vendors. Allo won't be doing the contracting. They'll be holding our hand very closely and walking us through all this. But we are going to be the ones that will be signing the contracts because when we do the grant administration, it's just easier that way. We're the ones purchasing it, and it'll go right into the grant process. But Allo is going to be working side by side with the town in this endeavor. They're going to be, like I said, holding our hand. Work order number 3 is the splice work. That's very technical, and that's the testing of the fusing, splicing, the light tests, the associated services. That is what a service that would be provided normally, I think, by a third party. They will do it for us. But that is once we have it designed and then built, that's the testing part. The last part, work order number 4, is a central office and associated work. So the central office, kind of think of it as the CPU. And Brad's cringing right now, but that's fine. It's basically the CPU of the network. In Fort Morgan, this building is an innocuous looking building that's right off their town hall. It looks like a storage facility. You can tell it's something different because there's a power generator outside of it, but it is the nerve center for the operation. We will own that. They will build it. We have to dedicate property for it to be on. Where we have talked to them about, and we've talked internally, the property that we think works best is the storage shed that was torn down at Cedar Park. That's a central location. It's rather innocuous, and it would be, we own the property. It's centrally located and it's easily accessible. But it would have to be on town property or property that the town leased or acquired. But you have lots of property that's available. But one we looked at, like I said, again, was near Cedar Park. They will do the site design, the engineering, the procurement, and the project management for services and installation. And so like site design, that's all the way down to construction drawings, utility plans, architectural drawings, the procurement, obviously materials and the price negotiation, so on and so forth. And then the installation of the fiber frame, the equipment racks, the generator, all that stuff. Those are your 4 work orders that go with the agreement. The last document is the lease and network operations agreement. This is the one that took the longest time to work through, and this is a very important document. So as you'll see, Allo needs to operate the HFN in a specific manner to keep in compliance with the state grant. You'll see recital number 3 on page 1, I believe, states in part, Allo requires the middle mile component to be managed in a competitively neutral and non-discriminatory manner, and Allo in the town shall reasonably cooperate to ensure Allo's management of the HFN complies with all grant requirements applicable to Allo. The state wants a competitively neutral backbone, middle mile. That's what the grant is for. That caused us a lot of problems, and that is why we brought Ken into this discussion, because we're running into an issue that the state, God bless their souls, gave us 3 or 4 different definitions of what that might be. So we decided, well, why don't we just find an attorney who's very good at this stuff and task him with creating an agreement that satisfies that requirement. So essentially, to keep the network competitively neutral, Allo would have to lease space on the network to anyone else who wanted it, even if it's a competitor. The reality is, since the market is so small and there's no reasonable expectation of competition, nobody's going to come in to try to get 5 houses. The scale just doesn't work. We're a very small community, relatively landlocked. You're not going to be growing to 50,000 people anytime soon. That said, the language certainly keeps us well within the grant criteria. We're not going to go back to the state and ask if this is okay. I'm confident with what legal counsel has directed us to, and I think the state will be just fine with it. If the state has a problem, they can contact us. But we had a real problem working with the state because they kept changing their mind on what they wanted. So we just decided to handle it this way. As mentioned before, the term of the lease is a 20-year with the possibility of 2 10-year extensions. The renewal is based on Allo's compliance with the requirements of this agreement, Allo's compliance with applicable federal, state, and local laws, rules, and policies. And then the third component that we added in, Allo's provision of services and the management of its operations within the town compared to the provision of services and operations of other providers in similarly situated communities in Colorado. What that means is 20 years from now, when their contract comes up and they want to renew, you can judge them by what other towns then 20 years from now are providing. Has Allo stayed up with the technology? Is Allo providing services of things that we can't even comprehend these days? Or have they been stuck in the past and they're just not keeping up with what industry standards are? So that does give you another way to judge, to say, hey, we look at other communities around the state that are similar to us and they have these features. We don't have them. And Allo can either correct that or Allo doesn't get renewed for the contract. That's something we felt, because we didn't want to judge. Technology is moving so fast. We don't know what's coming in 20 years. But we wanted to figure a way to judge their performance based on what may be coming in the future. So that's why that language got put in there. And Allo's, everything in here, Allo's agreed to. The lease payment. So we went round and round on this. And we talked about, well, they have to attach into Project Thor, and maybe it's 13% of their revenue, or, that's the lease. And what we wanted to do was make sure we covered however we connected to a network that was going to service us. And we've always talked about Project Thor. But we started communicating with Allo, and Allo said, well, do we necessarily have to use, is it a grant requirement that you use Project Thor? It is not. It's not a requirement that we interact with the state at all on this. We've always thought it was a cost-efficient way to do it. But basically what we've come up with Allo is their lease payment is Allo's obligation to compensate the town in consideration for the rights granted pursuant to this agreement shall be equal to the transport costs for primary and redundant connections to the HFN for backhaul purposes. Basically what they're saying is whatever it costs them to connect is what the lease is to operate on our system. Because we wanted to make sure the taxpayers didn't get caught with that. We didn't want more money coming out of the general fund to cover that. We wanted whoever was working with us to cover that cost. And that's what they're going to do. But we've also left it up to market forces. If they can find a cheaper way to do it, all we're concerned about is performance. If their performance is high and they figured out a cost-effective way to do it, good, everybody wins. We're okay with that. If their performance is bad, then that's something we're going to have to deal with. But we just felt that this is what they do for a living, and they may be able to get a better deal, or they may use Project Thor. So Allo may contract directly for the transport services and pay those fees directly, or the town may contract for those, and then we would invoice Allo. But either way that happens, Allo's paying for that, and that is what's going to act as their lease. The town is going to see some revenue, as we talked about. It'll be a pittance, but that will be from an established tax that you already had in place. Any extension of this is going to be at the cost of the developer. It's not going to be a cost of the town. We figured this was the best way to provide a market dynamic that can keep a provider in the game and keep the citizens from having to pay again for it out of the general fund. As part of the lease, Allo will maintain the network at their cost. These maintenance provision include timelines, like for instance, page 24, number 2, which discusses response times for maintenance. Page 25, number 5, restoration, outline response times for service. So there's things in there that put guardrails on the level of service and performance they have to provide to the town. And then page 23 of this details service level agreements and how customers will be compensated if the system experiences issues. So if the customers are out for an extended period of time, they get rebated or credited a certain amount based on an equation that's in this agreement. That's the net of this agreement. That's basically what it is gotten you is a broadband middle mile that's been paid for pretty much by oil and gas, whether it came from the state or came from revenues that we realized that were up and above anything that this town has realized before. And those revenues obviously are going to go down in the future because oil does that. We own it. They lease it and operate it. They design it. They help us contract to build it. And there is things in these agreements to give them guardrails for performance. That is a lot. I understand that. But it all kind of boiled down to what we've been talking to you in public and in private for the last couple months. I will open it up. Brad or Ken, is there anything else you'd like to add on this? I'll start with you.
Thanks, Guy. Mayor, council members, or board members, sorry. It's nice to be with you this evening. I really don't have much to add other than to just reiterate what Guy said about this last agreement that he focused on. The glitch was trying to find a way to ensure that we stayed consistent with the grant requirements, and we had to get a little creative, and we had to encourage ALLO to do something that it wasn't, not that it wasn't comfortable doing, but it hadn't done before because it hadn't interacted with a grant like this before. So there was some education involved in getting us to this point. But I think it's a good agreement. I'm confident that we are compliant with the grant. And as Guy said, we have various options for how the connections are going to be made and what the costs are. But whatever those costs are to connect to the internet backhaul, that's what the lease payments will cover. So I'm here for questions if you have them.
And Brad, do you want to add anything? Then we can open up for questions.
Yeah, well, one, thanks for having me on, Mayor and board, and Guy, thanks for your leadership through all this, because it's not something that we could just look at another agreement and say, oh, let's do it just like this. So it's the first time in Colorado, I think, this type of an arrangement. So it took some time, but how ALLO looks at it is just like we've done in other communities, whether it's Fort Morgan or Breckenridge or our, I think we're up to 16 communities in Nebraska. We announced Greeley today through a press release. The region's important to us, Hudson's important to us, and I think this agreement allowed us to enter a community that's smaller and that had cost problems, if simply because of the number of households and what it takes to bring up one of these networks. But for this grant, it wouldn't have worked. So what I'm excited about is ALLO's service reputation and those types of things is ranked very high in the industry. We can get you those numbers, but we're going to bring the same service we bring to all communities, big, small, wherever, to Hudson, and really set Hudson up for the future. It's what I do for a living. It's our business's purpose is to connect our region and make it the most connected region in the country, if not the world. And so we're excited to take this unique arrangement and apply it as Hudson becomes however big it gets over the next 40 years. Predicting 40 years is really hard. And that's one of the things that makes the agreement so hard. So we've been at it now for 18 years. So I know we can go at least half the 40-year time frame, but we've been at the fiber business for a long time. So I look forward, as I like to say, right now it's your town and we're the guests. When the construction's done, then it's collectively our town to make incredibly successful over the next 40 years. And so I can't wait to work with you. I will be involved directly. You'll see my face. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You can all decide in your community, particularly as it launches. And then all the services that we offer become available, whether it's high-end voice services or simply a connection to Netflix that's never buffers and is world class. So with that, I'll end. I can talk all day and see if there's any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Questions?
No? Thank you both. Appreciate it. If nobody has any questions, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve resolution 21-19, resolution approving a master service agreement and lease and operations agreement with Allo Hudson LLC for design, deployment, lease and operation of the Hudson Fiber Network.
It's been moved and seconded. And can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Councilmember Hammack, Councilmember Chavez, Councilmember Maestas,
Yes.
Councilmember Knopf,
Yes.
Councilmember Stadler,
Yes.
Mayor Hargis.
Yes. Motion carries. Look forward to working with you, Brad.
We'll have a lot of fun and it'll be, I just wish we got it done before COVID hit. But let's not say we'll be ready for the next one. Let's just say we'll be ready for the future.
Ken, Brad, thank you both for your time. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Want to say one thing real quick on record. Thanks to Matt Hershinger, who's not here, doesn't work for us anymore. He moved the ball forward a lot on this, and so I appreciate him. Good work. Okay, thank you.
All right, 2B, Resolution 2120, a resolution approving the equipment purchase agreement with Pelican LLC for equipment needed for the pump station retrofit.
Thank you. I'll do this one. We have, these next two are together, basically. This is to deal with the pump in Hudson Hills 2 on their property that serves Hudson Hills, the sewer pump. It was a sole source acquisition. Not many people work on this and nobody sells the parts. So there's only like 1 or 2 people in Colorado you can go to. And I believe we've used this person before.
Yes, yeah, this company, through the years has had several different names, you know, one owner retires, somebody else working for the company buys it, but they've been around for a long time, dealt with them with a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, like Guy said, not a lot of people do this work in this area. I actually did reach out to a second company and they couldn't even get a complete bid to me. They are having problems with a lot of the equipment on this. So it's kind of a odd duck. We've been fighting this lift station since they built the first house in Hudson Hills. It was installed when the infrastructure was put in, then never touched again. So mice got to it, rabbits got to it, snakes moved into it. At this point, we're running a gasoline powered pump to keep you guys serviced at Hudson Hills. So that's why we're moving forward with this project. And both of these do go hand in hand, these next 2 items. One is for the equipment, the other one is for the installation.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? No, then I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve resolution 21-20, a resolution approving the equipment purchase agreement with Pelican LLC for equipment needed for the pump station retrofit.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Knopf,
Yes.
Councilmember Stadler,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Hammack,
Yes.
Councilmember Maestas,
Yes.
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Mayor Hargis.
Yes. Three C, Resolution 2121, a resolution approving the agreement for professional services with Jason Westling, DBA Westco for the pump station retrofit.
You just approved buying it. Now, hopefully you'll improve to install it.
I make a motion to approve resolution 21-21, a resolution approving the agreement for professional services with Jason Westling, DBA Westco for the pump station retrofit.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Knopf,
Yes.
Councilmember Stadler,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Hammack, Councilmember Maestas,
Yes.
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Mayor Hargis.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Staff comments. Guy.
Thank you. We told you to bring back the budget calendar issue. The big issue is when you would want a council budget retreat. I suggested moving it back into September this year. For the last couple of years, you've had it in August. I think we can take one section out that you've done in the prior years, and that'll allow you to move this retreat back. We feel the first weekend of September is Labor Day. So the Saturdays are September 11th, 18th, or 25th. I think, Madam Mayor, you said you were going to be out of town on the 11th and 18th. If you did it on the 25th, we would still have time to produce a budget and get a draft to you by the October 15th deadline mandated by the state. So if I can get guidance on when you'd like to do that retreat, and then I can go ahead and start scheduling everything around it.
If nobody else can do it on that last weekend,
Weekend of,
25th.
yeah, I'll be fine now.
okay, I can make sure that I'm back by the 18th or whichever one it is.
That would be August 18th, right?
September.
September.
September, okay, sorry. I can do that.
You guys want to do the 18th or 25th?
Let's do the 18th.
18th, general agreement?
Sounds like it,
Appreciate it.
18th.
Okay. Thank you. Attended a presentation that was enlightening as it was depressing from the county assessor. That would be this document that I handed out to you. You will see that the total valuation of Hudson is going to decrease by 26%. That is largely oil and gas. As you can see, that is going to go down by half. That's just for Hudson. When we got into this conversation more, and there were probably 30 or 40 agencies from all over Weld County, I asked the assessor, what do you think is going to happen with oil and gas in the future? And she indicated rather starkly that the peak that you saw a year ago or so is going to be the last time you're going to see that. Revenue will continually fall in perpetuity from here on out. The type of oil that's available here in the basin is all the easy stuff has been found out. Solar and alternative fuels are taking over the need for energy. So, but anyway, I just want to let you know that that's what we'll be looking at. That is actually kind of what we thought. We were calculating 50% reduction. It did kind of surprise me a little bit that your commercial went down, your residential went up a little bit. But anyway, that's information that we will put into our budgeting process. But there was a lot of groans at that meeting for sure. We received notification that we'll be receiving funds for the American Rescue Plan. It'll come in 2 tranches, one this year, one next year, for a total of $695,484.77. The first year, this year, we're going to see 347,000, almost 348,000. Next year, same amount. So when we get some decent guidance from the state about what we can actually use this on and everything, we'll get back to you and try to get some focus from council as to what you'd like to do with this revenue. But that did come in. And the van, still looking for a van. New is impossible. Retrofit is almost impossible. If you can do anything with parts, you're about a year out, and there's nothing really on the market. So we'll keep looking for a van, which has turned into more of an experience than I wanted it to, but that's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Guy?
I do. I don't know if this is really Guy or Hunter, but the water letter we received in the mail in June, that was from May. Has that been cleared up? Sorry, I didn't know who it'd be for.
That's fine. Yes, it was cleared up. So when we take a bacteriological sample, we have to test the chlorine. The state says we have to have a 0.2 chlorine residual. When we tested at town hall and at the school admin building, we were below that 0.2. I believe one was a 0.13 and the other one was a 0.14. Some we've run into, both this facility and the new school are on low flow. The other residuals that we took that day, because we have to do 4 samples a month, one of them was at a 1.04 and the other one was a 0.95. So really, there's no issue in the town. It's the way the state makes us notify. I've argued with them, and you cannot argue with the state that you cannot, to me, you can't scare the whole populace. Everything was fine. This is actually a fairly new rule within the last year and a half. It used to be a 0.02 limit. So as long as you had chlorine of any sorts, you were fine. Now they came up, they decided our meters weren't accurate enough and came up with 0.2. It was rectified right away. Now the sampling, the guys that are doing the sampling know, run the water a little longer. That's generally, when we sample here, we call Kim and say, hey, turn on the kitchen sink for us. And we let it run for approximately an hour just to get fresh water in here because we don't use enough in town hall. So there was no threat to the town whatsoever with any problems.
Is there a way though that we can get the letter in May instead of in June when it's all done?
We didn't get notified till almost June from the state. Then we sent it back to the state to okay it. They didn't like the way we did it, and back and forth and back and forth.
Okay.
So
I just have people question.
I do
was
too.
like,
I'm taking a lot of
don't
phone calls.
ask, like-
Yeah, generally,
So,
and that's actually to get a response from the state in 2 weeks is pretty fast.
right, no, I know. I wasn't sure what the process. and all that
Yeah,
stuff
it's
was, so I
it's
figured out
very
that.
slow. But we were able to get it all notified, and like I said, it wasn't any threat to the citizens at all.
And the state mandated annual letter is going to go out in a month or so, 2 or 3 weeks.
I think I sent that to you so that we can get that out. The CCR is what they call it, the Consumer Confidence Report will be going out too.
Okay, cool, awesome, thank you.
Anything else for Guy?
Sorry, I didn't know.
That's fine.
All right.
That's fine. No? Corey?
Nothing this evening.
Charity?
I guess to piggyback off of Guy's report, we did receive the rest of our large sums of property tax revenue from the county last month. I ran a quick calculation before the meeting, and right now our bank account in Colo Trust is sitting at 84.14% of 1 year's annual budget. Keep in mind, we still have to make that payment back to Lloyd Land, but we are inching closer towards that 100% mark.
Good. Anybody have any questions for Charity? No? Jay?
The only thing, sorry, Hunter's a little taller. The only thing I have is, it looks like a lot of our traffic issues are relieved. I mean, we had like 29 accidents, 26 accidents just related to the 52 project. And we're on accident alert. So we still took that many reports. Some of them involved incidents with our flaggers having contact with some of our vehicles out there and stuff, but I think we're pretty well beyond that. Nobody's waiting 45 minutes anymore to get through way out of town.
Want to share your experience, you?
Yeah, yesterday as I was coming back into town just before noon, somebody literally blew the stop sign at Cedar across to behind the barn store. The stop sign and the flagger who actually had it on stop, believe it or not. And it looked like the flagging supervisor was there. And as the person blew through, if I'd have been just a few seconds earlier, I'd have hit him. The supervisor looked at the car and went, they didn't hit him with the sign.
And they've been instructed to try to get us a plate number or something, a description, and give us a call, but rarely does that happen unless the flagger's actually
Fast, I
hit
don't
or
know that they
something.
could have gotten a plate.
Ah,
All I can tell you is it was a small light colored sedan.
Oh.
That's how fast he blew through.
Wow.
I mean,
You don't have a small light colored sedan. Does anybody have anything for Jay? No? Thank you. Hunter?
If you guys haven't noticed, it's hot out. Heat like this causes a lot of gremlins for electrical equipment. So that's been a lot of our time this week is chasing gremlins. And we've had a couple of gremlins with the booster station as we're doing some testing right now before we put it online. So we're getting those fixed. I've got a meeting with the controls people on Friday. They're going to be out to start going through stuff on that. So that's moving forward. Yay. I've been shorthanded this week due to a family emergency. So it's taken a toll on us this week. But the guys are doing good. We're chasing irrigation problems as usual, you know, our 50-year-old park down there, chasing leaks. But we're getting them patched as we find them. So we're moving forward with stuff.
So how long before you think the pump will be online?
My goal is 2 weeks.
Wasn't it 2 weeks a month ago?
It was,
Like 2 months ago.
and 2 months ago, and yeah.
Okay.
And every time I turn around, I get another reason why we can't. But I feel we now have all the hardware and software in place. Like I said, we're doing testing on it, playing with pressures as much as we can without overflowing the elevated tanks. So everything's responding really well. We just want to make sure it's ready when we close the valve to the tank, that it's going to handle everything.
And you got the internet out there now?
Got the internet out there, so we're
Okay.
good there.
Yeah. Any other questions for Hunter?
We got your tree cut down too.
My tree?
And we sprayed it this time, so hopefully it doesn't come back.
Yeah, the one on
The one on
52 right there.
52 in Holly, yeah,
Yeah. Good luck with that. But
right.
thank you. I saw that. If you could like continue with CDOT on keeping the rest of the weeds in there mowed
Right.
down.
And I actually saw a mower out the other day. Speaking with CDOT, they're gonna mow twice this year.
Ooh.
It surprised me. Yeah, I mean, they're getting big time now. Due to all the rain and everything that they said, yeah, they're gonna have to mow twice this year. So we'll see if it happens or not, but that's their plan.
Be nice if they could keep things mowed down for several reasons. One, people can't see coming out of any of the streets that have the tall weeds next to them. Two, it keeps the mosquitoes down. And three, it tends to keep the ticks down.
Yeah, and the snakes.
I don't care about the snakes so long as they get rid of the mice.
We've had a lot of rattlesnakes this year out at the Sparvo booster station and tanks.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Okay.
real bad out that way this year. So the guys are back to carrying chaps and bite gators and stuff with them anytime they have to work out there.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Have a good evening.
Jen? Nothing? Daniel?
Do we have an update on the construction, the highway construction? Are they still on schedule? Are they behind schedule?
I haven't seen an overall schedule
Daniel,
timeline.
really? They are on schedule. They are still wondering when the heck Burlington Northern's going to do their thing.
Okay.
But they are on schedule for doing their thing. And one thing I wanted to add about that is we had a powwow with them, kind of a come to Jesus. Just letting them know, whatever you're doing ain't working. You gotta fix it. And then I don't know if they put them up. I didn't get a chance to look, but they did order signs to say this way to Pepper Pot and the liquor store. And because we'd heard from Pepper Pot, they're having a hard time.
Yeah.
People were not knowing they're open.
Well, I guess the liquor store is not going to open until noon because,
I think it was like noon to 8 or something like that.
yeah,
Right after breakfast.
or 2 to
I think it's
midnight.
8
2 to midnight.
2 to midnight because,
Traffic.
and people can't find them
Yeah.
or can't
But-
get there. They can find them. They go, yeah, it's right there.
But no, they're on schedule, but we're trying to figure out what the hell Burlington Northern's doing.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have.
Candace?
I have a question about the dog park that's possibly going in.
Can you pull that a little closer?
The dog park that may be going in by Hudson Hills.
So I'm not sure where that came from.
Came from the Rec and Events Committee when they voted on it.
And they've pretty much said that it's a done deal.
Okay.
Vote that they did.
Was
When
that
they
last?
voted down the skate park, it was like in April.
Oh,
So that's to recommend to you guys, to this council projects. And you guys can turn them down.
Okay,
It's
so it
just to
does have
recommend.
to come through council
Oh, yeah.
before.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's not budgeted. And part of it was if they want to put it in the future budget. That particular piece of property has been talked about for a long time for a dog park, but it's not budgeted, it's not engineered, it's not anything.
'Cause when-
So we can put in the next coming budget if it's something like to talk about, or put it in a different location, or not have a
I think
dog
you're
park.
gonna get a lot of pushback on it, but
fine.
especially the place you want to put it. And the fact that we have parks that still don't always get attended to, a dog park, people can't keep their dogs in their yards, let alone cleaning up their own dog messes.
I was gonna say, what's the point of a dog park when everybody lets their dog run loose
County
anyway?
has a dog
I
park.
also think there was one
Yeah,
last night.
so-
Taz was out last night. There was
Just
another
one?
today.
I like
So
how you
they're
know
out.
all their names.
I do, well, because I share it because, but it's that one Taz, everyone's like, oh, it's Taz. He's the neighborhood person.
That was really just my question though, is if it was coming through council or if it had to be approved, because
You would have to.
Then
come
if
to
it's
you guys.
coming through council, why didn't Sophia say that at the meeting when I said, have you talked to the citizens of Hudson Hills? And she said, no, we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to vote on it.
I don't know.
Because I specifically said you need to talk to them because it's been talked about before and we keep shutting it down.
I don't know why she said that.
Well, you were there, you heard it, so.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
I think that's it. Go.
You know, we do have a big problem with cottonwood trees, and it's getting worse and worse. So I'm thinking maybe in the budget, we look at, maybe offering to pay to cut down some cottonwood trees if they allow us to on people's property. It is a mess, and it's just getting worse and worse every year.
Especially since the cottonless cottonwood trees turned cotton.
It is
But-
pretty bad.
It's been a municipality by municipality thing of saying you can't plant cottonwood trees anymore, so people plant the cottonless and they do turn. Short of passing a resolution that nobody can have a cottonwood tree, period, and that would get rid of all the trees in town, pretty much. The ones that say they do not produce cotton
Still pretty.
between 5 and 10 years after being planted, they will produce cotton.
As much as some of these trees that are around now.
The older they get,
I
the
didn't
worse
know.
they're gonna get.
They're,
But it-
they're not able to plant those in the HOA areas.
But again, if you were to take down all the trees in the town, the cottonwood trees, there'd be no trees left in town.
What about the dead ones?
That they are supposed to be taking down, but it is, it's a code thing and we're working on it. There's a lot of code things we're working on.
All the horses were still there.
Really, yesterday, or this morning, I didn't see
Saw
them.
the other day.
They were there yesterday when I drove by. Oh, that's good. Because I keep looking and I saw them there the other day and I was like, oh, not taken care of.
Yeah, when we came back from Canyon City, they were still there. And then this morning they weren't. There was a
That's good.
skid steer in the yard. Anything else, Joe?
Oh, that's it.
Maria,
Due to the weather last
pull
week,
your
we
mic closer, please.
moved out the cornhole tournaments down 1 week, the whole set of them. But we had a good turnout. And then this Saturday, we'll be having our first movie night.
Can you ask Sophia to maybe post about the cornhole tournament every Monday because there were 6 people there? But to me, I don't think that's a good turnout because she didn't share about it from like a week ago. So I don't think a lot of people knew. I posted about it, just saying a reminder, but I don't think a lot of people saw that post. But I think if you want people to come, either you or her or someone on your rec and events committee is gonna have to share the morning of just to remind people.
The morning of, later in the afternoon.
Yeah, or the later
I
in the afternoon.
forgot.
People have requested for things to be later.
Yeah, I saw that. Shanna did, because it's hard
Yeah.
to get off work. You know, people get off work at 5 and they have to have dinner and then it's at 6 o'clock and so.
Anything else? Sarah?
No, I've done it.
Like,
Nothing.
shoot, there was something I was gonna bring up and now I forgot. I can blame my brain melting because we don't have any AC. Okay, citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to address the council on anything that was talked about during the meeting can do so at this time. Let the record show there's no citizens left in the building.
There's one. She's right behind the podium. She's still in the building.
Well, she's also an employee.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying.
Would somebody take us into executive session, please?
I make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to section 3-12(1)A of the Hudson Town Rule Charter to determine a position relative to issues subject to negotiation, to receive reports on negotiation process and status, to develop strategy, and to instruct negotiators regarding BNSF.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in executive session at 6:50.